Hi everybody, welcome back to Missy's Imaginings. I thought it'd be fun today to go ahead and show you how I draft a pattern for pleated pants. So I'm going to be taking the basic set that I posted last week, and I'm going to use that set to draft a pair of pants with some pleats on the front. This will be a little bit different in that instead of the pleats all laying towards the front, like towards the fly, each pleat on each side will actually be a front pleat. So one side of the pleat will lay towards the fly, but the other side will lay towards the pocket. I saw a photo, well, I saw a video, and someone was wearing a pair of pants that looked like that, and they had a really pretty drape, so I'm going to have to find fabric later that will drape right so it'll look nice, but I really liked the way those pants looked. So that's what I wanted to try to draft for the Miro Doll 66 centimeter male body. So that's who we're going to be drafting this for. If you have someone who's similar in size, it will probably work with minimal changes. A lot of the tall fellas, as long as you have their waist right and it can come up high enough to where the waistband doesn't look real weird, and you make sure they're long enough, pants are really easy to juggle between body styles on the fellas. So anyhow, that's what we're going to do. So hopefully it'll be useful if you've got a fella that's much smaller, or if you've got one of the really giant, like 80 centimeter guys. At least this will show you how you can draft a pattern of your own so that you'll know it will fit. So that's what we're going to do today. I have my pieces that were done here that we're going to be drafting that I'll go ahead and need to cut these out. And in another video, we'll go ahead and sew those pants. I also still have plans to do the video of the wig, the tressed wig. So I have my tress fabric, or my tress fibers, hair, whatever, here, so we can do that. And I haven't forgotten, I do have the little suit coat that goes with the flared skirt and sleeveless blouse that we did for the 3rd scale BJD. I do have that coat all cut out, and it's still waiting to sew. Lots of projects. And other things in the news is I had my planner out this week and today. And just to kind of give you an idea, what was the saying that they said? They said, riders hold your horses and horses hold your breath. Because when I opened up my planner for the month of December, these are all video ideas. I still have ideas from November as well that need to be accomplished. But these are all ideas for December. And not only that, but in December, we'll open up to the actual weekly planner. Oh, here it comes. December, once again, is going to start out the 12 gifts of Christmas. So I plan to have something to post for free on the website. 12 gifts, so at least every other day. Now, if you followed me very long, you know that the last couple of years, once in a while I might miss a day, but then I double up. So by the 24th of December, on Christmas Eve, there will have been 12 free gifts posted. So that's coming up. I've got lots of things in the works, lots of projects that I'm working on to get ready for that. So it's coming up. I have it marked in my planner, and I haven't written them down yet because I didn't want to give any spoilers. So that's coming up. So just know that that's coming up. We're coming up for a wild ride in December with lots of fun things posted. So, and it'll be all a variety of things. So some will be patterns, some will be paper dolls, and some might be some coloring crafts. So if you have grandkids or kids who you're going to have for the holidays and you want something for them to do, we'll have some fun things for them as well. So that's all for you coming up in December, so that you can print those freebies out and have a wonderful holiday season. So with, last thing, I guess, I have it sitting here still. I could not resist. I just couldn't resist. Isn't that the cutest thing? I know. I'm terrible, but it was so cute. And there's some things that when they're doll props, I usually don't get lots and lots of things like that. But when it's a specific brand like this, and of course, you know, I have the basket full of goodies and food, and this I think is actually a Disney thing. But anyway, I just thought it was adorable. So yes, I had to get a shopping cart for the holidays so we can fill it up with gifts. Small little boxes of chocolates are wonderful for doll props, and of course they fit in the shopping cart as well. So yeah, that was cute. I just had to show you that since it was sitting here. So we'll go ahead and switch it up and start drafting. To get these pants done, I'm going to be starting with the front of the pants. I have the light table on, which makes the surrounding a little bit darker, and I'll try to keep my hands out of the way so you can just see what's happening. I was looking at a pair of pants that I really liked, and they actually have a pleat that pleats both ways on the front. So it's kind of like two pleats, but it's just one outside pleat. And in the video where I made the kimono, I actually showed a way where you can get a long length of paper or fabric and fold it to prepare your pleats and pin it. Then when you unfold it, you have the correct length. So I've kind of prepared this little slip of paper, and let's go ahead and turn the light out here so it's not so bright. Maybe that'll show better. So I just got a length of paper. This happens to be Harry Potter notepad. There we go. And I matched it up on what is the center front because that's where my pleat edges are going to be, and I'll allow for the fly when I actually make the paper. And then I also made the marks of where I would actually cut for the side or if I'm going to have a pocket. So I indicated that. Then what I did is I brought the paper together to where my thumbnails will meet, and I marked that as the inside of my pleat. Then I lay the paper down flat like this, and that marks the outside of my pleat. So that way when I take the paper and stretch it all out, this is how wide that pattern piece is actually it has to be from the edge of where I cut to the fly. And then of course I will draw on the fly allowance. But sometimes when you're actually trying to measure on a doll and you're trying to fold your measuring tape, it's got so many marks on it that it gets confusing. So if you just take just a blank piece of paper, like if I was starting fresh here, and I would lay it exactly where the center is, and then I would mark where I want my pleat to fold in. And right here I have a little mark on my pattern for my center, and I actually ended up moving that a little bit. So I just put my thumb down to where I want the center of that pleat to fold, like how deep you want your fold. Then I press it down, bring the pleat in, bring it into where my little thumb meets, and okay, and I don't want it to go past where the pocket would be, so I compare where the edge of my pocket is, and then I just kind of fold that down, and there we go. Then I have my pleat, which will be a pleat on both sides. There we go. And then I can turn on the light table and trace actually where the fabric will be cut. But that way you already know how long your pleat's going to be and how long your fabric needs to be. So with that measurement done, now I can draft the pants pattern. When I'm going to make pants, I'm using the basic pieces. So you can see here the curvature of the leg, because on BJDs they're very curvy as far as the thigh. It comes in at the knee, around the calf, and then down. I always go as low as I can on the ankle because you want the pants to be able to pass over the foot. So this actually will even be a little bit wider. But now what I can see is when I'm going to make even a narrow pant leg, I know that from the thickest part of the thigh down to the ankle, I want a fairly straight line, but I want to make sure that I'm going to have enough room for that calf. And so if you even want to bow in for a skinny leg, you can come from here and go in a little bit, you know, if you want it to be a very curvy fit, or if you want a straighter leg. You just make sure, excuse me, that your cut line is going to allow for the widest parts of the leg of that pant. So if you're going to have, you know, a wider leg pant, it's not as much of a problem. But for a narrow leg pant, you can come in and just make sure that you've got a line that's going to account for the length of where that calf is. So for here, down to my ankle, I know that I'm going to be able to account for that thickness of the calf, so I know I'm going to be okay. So that's kind of how you can use these basic pieces to make sure that it's going to fit the doll. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and fire up the light table. I like to start when I'm drafting a pattern that I'm actually going to use, just my rough draft. I use a lot of the packing paper that comes in packages when I order things, because it's large enough for the taller BJDs to have enough length. I can do it all in one piece. And then once I have the piece the way I want it, I usually will draw a cut line. So then as I'm making the patterns and getting them ready to put, you know, on the website for you guys, let's see, we'll pick out this pant leg piece if I can get it. It's already in my file folder here. Is this one of them? Here it is. So I draw a line, and then that is where that cut would be. And then on this piece, I have where that cut would be, and then I add a little extra so that you can take this and overlap it. So that way it makes it smaller and easier for you guys to print. But when I'm first drafting them, I like to have that full length of paper that's really long, just so that I can have enough room to draft, erase, scribble, whatnot. I'll get this out of the way. So now what I can do is I have my front piece, and I'm going to put it, let's see, this end seems to be a little wider, so I'll come down here. Because I know this front piece is going to have to be wider at the waistline because it's going to have pleats in it, so it's going to take more room. So I'm going to just lay my piece under the light table, and the piece that I've already measured out, we'll have that ready. Now I'm going to lay this piece, and I can see here I don't have enough room, so I'm going to have to move it in, which is why I like bigger paper. There we go. Okay, so I know here is my center front. And I'm just going to go all the way up to the cut line for now and do my cut line that comes up this high. Okay, and I'm going to put the piece that I've already measured. I'm going to indicate the first inside pleat. There we go. And I'm going to mark the outside of the pleat. No, my hand's not in the way there. Then I'm going to continue all the way out to the edge, and I'm going to mark that, and then I'm going to put my next inside, and I'm going to mark the outside. So that accounts for that front double pleat. And then I am going to mark where the cut line would be for my pocket and the cut line for the outer edge. So now those lines are in place on the waistline. I'm going to go ahead and add in the fly. Add that on. And the inside of the crotch seam, which doesn't really change a lot because you want that to be nice and fitted. So I don't usually alter the inside of the crotch line very much. And now I know when I drafted the basic piece, it just goes just a little past the ankle. So for an actual pant length, I want it to be longer. So I'm going to add about 3/8 of an inch to the length here, because I want the length of my pant to go down over a shoe. Not all the way to the ground, but to have enough length to go down to a shoe. So now that I have that in place, I can take my ruler, and I know I want this to be not a super, super full pant at the ankles, but I do want to have a little bit of fullness because I've got a very, very full front. So I don't want it to be real fat and poofy up by the front of the fly and the waist and then get real skinny. So I want a decent width of a length on my pant leg. So I'm going to add a 1/4 inch out from here, and I'm kind of lining up the ruler to give me a straight line up to where it'll come to that inseam, and I'm just going to draw a straight line. There we go. So that will be the inseam of my pant line. Now I'm going to come to the outer seam, and here again I want a fair amount of fullness. So I've come out from what actually fits about a 1/4 inch, which is here. But now I've got a very full pant, and so I'm going to, I know I'm going to have to come up to here, but I don't want it just to be a straight V because I want it to have just a line, so I'm going to allow for that. But I'm going to go ahead and draw to where it would pretty much kind of be on the outside of the thigh, a straight line for my pant leg. Now I'm going to shift the drafting paper so that that edge of the waistband comes, and it's going to tilt a little bit to where it matches that line that I just drew for my pant leg. And like I say, this is just kind of my rough draft. I'm going to indicate with a line where those two lines met and come up on the actual pant leg or side there. And then I'm going to indicate where it would be if it was straight, which would be like this. So I'm going to indicate that cut line and the side link like this. So now that I turn off this light again, because I don't need to see through this anymore, you can kind of see the difference of if it came straight down as compared to the line to meet this hem, because I don't want a big fat length. So now I'm going to compromise. I'm going to take this line and come even it down kind of halfway between. Come down. And then more gradually work into that pant leg, because now I know the pant leg is wide enough, but I don't want it to look real weird as a fit. And like I say, this is my first draft, so sometimes they still end up being changed. But I'm going to take that and go all the way up to the waist, and then the pocket I might come in just a little bit, so I have a nice rounded pocket here. So now that this is a pencil line, it might be hard to see. I'm going to go ahead and grab a Sharpie so we can see what this outside line will be like. So when I actually cut the fabric, it will look like this. Oh, sorry. This is why it's a first draft. There we go. So here will be the front of my pants. Then this is the center front. Here's the inside pleat, the outside of the pleat, outside of the pleat, inside of the pleat. So I'll make those two longer. There we go. So that is the front of my pants. Now we're going to move on to the back of the pants. Now the back of the pants won't have as much change. It'll mostly be just to make sure that the lines are straight and that the side seam and the inseam match in length so that the pieces will fit together. So the back isn't going to have as much because when I made this basic set, I really didn't have to put a pleat in the back of the pants. It really didn't seem to need it, which was kind of nice. So just kind of the way he was shaped. So now I'm going to go ahead and I have a little rip here, so I'm allowing some extra length on that side, just so it'll be long enough. And there's a couple little tears here, so I'll be careful. So now again, I need my pencil, and I'm going to go along the waistline edge here, and the inseam, or the crotch seam, which is not going to change much, because I know that fits the doll exactly the way I want. And then the outer seam, I'm not going to add a lot of width. I might add about 1/8 of an inch, just so I've got some room there to fit, like if I want to tuck in a shirt. Okay, so now when I do this seam, as I was mentioning, here, just the way the doll kind of fits, because the back of the calf is wider than the front of the calf, this kind of shows up more on the back piece. So I'm going to take from the widest part of the calf, I'm going to add like 1/16 of an inch there. And then I know that this I wanted to come out about 1/4 of an inch, not much longer than that. But now I'm going to take my pant leg and make sure that it fits a pretty straight line, but that it's going to have enough to account for that calf. So here we go. It might have a slight curvature on the back of my pants. This is pretty straight, but then it will curve in a little bit on the back. Just a little bit here. So let's go ahead and curve that in. So it's just going to be a slight curve and then come down for a more narrow pant leg down at the ankle. Here, the same thing. I know I'm coming from the inseam, which isn't going to change a lot. I want to be able to account for the wideness of that calf. So it's going to come here and then come down to the ankle. And now I know I added about 3/8 of an inch of length to the length of the pant, so I'm going to add that. There we go. Now what we're going to do is turn off the light, and I had some scissors. Just have to find where I put them. There they are. I'm going to cut these pieces apart. I guess I could have left the light on for a minute, because I'm going to have to turn it back on. Okay. So now with the light table back on, here we go. I'm going to flip this over so that I can kind of match up the side seam on the side that I'm actually drawing. What I want to make sure is that this outer edge of the pant will be the same length as this outer edge. So I'm going to start at the waist, and I'm going to kind of curve my paper down, because that'll be fabric. And I'm going to draw and allow that line to follow all the way down. And I see, oh, I didn't make it near long enough. So let's double check here. There we go. Because I want that length to match when I put the outer seam and inner seam together. So I'm going to have to add some length here. There we go. And I'm not going to use that length. Now I'm going to come to the inseam. and do the same process. I'm going to lay that and allow that to curve and follow the length so that my inseam is here, which is very odd that we're going to have such different lengths. Well, we'll try it that way. And I may end up having to take this down a little bit. Let's do that. Let's curve this down about 1/4 inch. And then we'll take this, let's see, leave this the same. And go from here. Let's see how that works. Okay, that's better. So take the middle one. Okay. Now we'll match this inseam. To here. I'm going to make that dark. So there we go. Now we'll go ahead and we're going to make some adjustments on this piece. Just because it was a little wonky with the length. We're going to keep our measurements for our pleats in the same locations and then just get rid of that. And then the back piece, will look like that. So there's the front and the back of my pants. The next part is to go ahead and make the pocket. Now I have a pocket piece here and I'm going to look to the cut. It has altered a little bit since I altered this because this pocket will fit the basic if you keep it fairly the same. But because we've changed it, I'm going to get a new piece of paper here out of my stash. So you can see here I have a whole stash of packing paper that I use for patterns. And it's kind of wonky and torn, but that's okay. So now for the pattern piece for a pocket, all you need to do is trace out where the line is for your waist and the cut line for your pocket, and then the edge of the pant, which looks like this. Then you fold it over however deep you want the pocket to be. And here I'm going to continue, well, let's see, I'm on the same side. So now I'm going to cut the get rid of some of that paper. So here is the outside edge of the pocket, which is actually the inside of the pocket, but then I also want this pocket to be able to have my side seam look right. So I'm going to flip this over again. And I'm going to line this up on the edge here so it matches, and find my fold line on how deep I want the pocket to be. And then I'm going to draw a line that goes all the way out to the edge of the pants and follows the outside edge of the pants. So once that pocket is folded, then let's see, go back here because I want to make sure I indicate which one, because I folded the paper in a couple places where my fold line is. There it is. So here is now going to be my pocket piece. For my pleated pants. So there's the pocket. So I would sew the pocket with right sides together on this. Then I flip that to the inside and top stitch it. And then once it's sewn inside, then this is folded and I just sew this together. And then I end up having that piece. Let's go ahead and cut it out here. Make it easier to see. And if you've watched any of the pant sewing videos, then you kind of already know this. But in case this is the first one, we'll just explain a little bit. There we go. And we'll go ahead and cut this piece. Now that the pocket's designed, I don't need that outside edge anymore. There we go. And the waistband. Okay. So when this is sewn, we sew right sides together, then we flip it back in, and then once it's on the inside, we fold it back again so that the edge of that pocket pattern produces what is the edge of the pants. So this will now be the side seam that will match up with this side seam when we sew those together. So then the side seams will match. So that's how you put that pocket in there and how you draft it. And then I have my fold line indicated here. So that's the front of the pants, the back of the pants, and the pocket. Now for the waistline, I'm just going to go back to my basic pattern set, and I'm going to grab a measuring tape. There we go. So the back of the pants, and here I'm not measuring the outside but the actual inside between the seams, because this will be seam allowance, so the actual length is just the small line. And so I have, let's see, it looks like 5.5, which will be 11 centimeters, because you double it, because you have, you know, one side of the back and the other side of the back. Then on the front piece, I go back to the actual, from the center front to the outside edge of the pants. So here's our pattern pieces. We have the front and the rest of the front that will attach here, and the front pocket. We have the waistband and the back, which will attach like this before you cut the fabric. So the fancy pattern is all now ready and pretty to get formatted on the computer and posted on the website.